Hello there, people of the internet. Real quick before we get started, new Patreon, so new Patreon shout out. Philip McCracken, that is a badass name, dude. If you want to help support my work, I got links to Utreon and Patreon in the description below. That definitely helps me make more content more often. That being said, let me tell you guys a story. This is a story that caught me off guard because I was definitely not expecting it. This is a Mosin Nagant 9130 chambered in 7.62 by 54R. Now 7.62 by 54 is actually a different bullet diameter than 7.62 by 51. 7.62 is indicating that it is a 30 caliber projectile, but 7.62 from Russia is not the same as 7.62 from the United States, which is ultimately where 7.62 by 51 developed and came from. Well, there's some people out there who just do not know that. Let me go ahead and tell you guys this story. I have an elderly gentleman who is a friend of mine who is a reloader. Not you. I know you're watching this video. You're not the one I'm talking about. This elderly gentleman that is a reloader is not very good at reloading in terms of he doesn't really comprehend bullet diameters. Let me go ahead and explain this. He is a full-blooded American, and he does not know anything about non-American firearms. Well, he loads 30-06 and 308 for himself, and he gets superb accuracy out of his hand loadings like that. He owns a Mosin Nagant, and he is convinced that these are absolutely inaccurate rifles that cannot hit the broadside of a barn. And to be fair, I do have a Mosin Nagant that is like 20 MOA accuracy, if that, but that's just because I have absolutely shot the hell out of that thing. I got several videos on that if you want to go check that out. But this guy has a Mosin Nagant, and he hand loads his own 7.62 by 54 rimmed, and he just cannot hit anything with it. And I was kind of scratching my head, and I was like, all right, let me go ahead and check that out and try it. And I actually brought his Mosin Nagant out here to my house, and I stuck some tool ammo through it, and I was getting probably about 4-inch groups at 100 yards, and I was able to hit something with it. But this guy, he told me he basically has the same situation I have with the 20 MOA rifle, and I'm like, nah, this is actually a pretty accurate rifle as far as shot out Mosin Nagants go. Well, whenever I was talking to this guy, he was talking about how he loads his own bullets, and I was like, all right, let me go ahead and bring those out and, you know, run it through your Mosin, and I'll see what happens. I mean, some rifles just don't like some kinds of ammunition. So I ran it through his Mosin, and sure enough, I literally did not hit my target at the 40-yard line that we're standing at here, and I fired quite a few rounds at it. I did not hit it once. Well, I was kind of scratching my head, and I was like, all right, maybe this Mosin really does not like this ammo. So I go grab myself another Mosin. And sure enough, I stuck that ammo through that other Mosin, and it did not like it either, and I literally did not hit my target at all. So I actually ran it through two more Mosins. I ran it through this 9130, and then I have a finished 1891 and an M44. I ran it through all those, and none of these Mosins liked it. And I was like, what the hell's going on with this ammunition? So I grabbed my digital calipers, and I measure it. And my buddy uses 308 diameter bullets for his Mosin Nagant, which is a 311 diameter bore. Well, my buddy was under the impression that because it was 7.62 by 54 rimmed, that it was the same diameter as 7.62 by 51, because they're both 7.62, right? Well, no. Like I said, the Russian 7.62 is just a little bit different than our 7.62. So our 7.62 is a 308 diameter bullet. Now there's lots of things out there that take 308 diameter bullets. Most common are your 308 Winchester / 7.62 by 51 and your 30-06, but we've been using 308 diameter bullets for a long time. This is a 30-40 Krag. I've got plenty of videos on this thing up, but obviously it's been sporterized. But it takes 308 diameter bullets, and that is what I load my ammunition with. I hand load ammunition for this particular rifle, and since it is a 308 diameter bore, I actually get pretty decent accuracy with it. This is probably about a 2 MOA rifle, and considering its age, that's not bad at all. Of course, that's 2 MOA with properly loaded, you know, proper spec ammunition. If you were to throw some other kind of ammunition or some other kind of bullet diameter in this thing, then you probably would not get the accuracy that you're looking for. A rifle that comes to mind is the 7.35 M38 Carcano, which takes a true 30 caliber round. It is a 300 exactly 300 diameter bullet versus the 7.62 308 diameter bullet that we are all used to today. You try shoving a 308 diameter bullet inside of a 300 diameter bore, you are going to either overpressure it and blow up the gun, or if the action is strong enough to survive a couple of times of that happening, you're going to get extremely diminished accuracy. You got to make sure that you're using the proper bullet size for your bore, and if that means going from a 308 to a 311 diameter bullet, which is what the Mosin Nagant takes, as opposed to a 308 that, say, an American rifle would take, then that's just what you got to do. Well, this is actually a really nice little rifle. Like I said before, I've made a couple of videos on this 3040 Krag, and action buttery smooth, because it's not a particularly powerful, potent cartridge. The recoil on it, even though this is a sporterized rifle, is actually really doable. And it's accurate enough. Now, whenever I am like bench rested and resting this rifle on something, and I have my target like spray painted to where I can actually see it, I can get some pretty damn good groups out of this rifle using my 308 diameter projectiles. Now, if I were to shove, say, the 7.35 Carcano's 300 diameter projectile inside of this thing, then I would get pretty significantly diminished accuracy. However, there are some rifles out there that are just, how would I describe it? They take different diameter bullets a little bit better than others. Like, for example, I have a 6.5 Carcano, which takes a different diameter 6.5 bullet than what we are used to here in the United States. Normally, 6.5 is a 2.64 diameter projectile. Well, the 6.5 Carcano takes a 2.68 diameter projectile. However, although I have some Carcanos who do not take 2.64 diameter projectiles very well, I also have ones that take it extremely well, and I get very, very good groups out of it. So I guess it all really depends on your particular rifle and what your particular rifle is able to go with. From what I can tell, the Mosin Nagant with its 7.62 x 54 rim does not take 308 bullets very well, because I ran that through several Mosin Nagants and we had the same issue. Now, this right here is an 8mm Mauser, a Turkish Mauser. And although the terminology is, in fact, 8mm Mauser, that is the military designation for this cartridge, it's actually a 7.92 diameter bullet. 7.92 millimeters. And that right there, I have seen legitimate confusion caused amongst reloaders with that designation. So 8mm is actually 7.92 diameter. That is something that's, what am I trying to say here? That is something that not only causes confusion to this day, I imagine that it probably would have caused confusion back whenever this cartridge had first come out. It has always originally been called the 8mm Mauser as opposed to the 7mm Mauser. Yeah, that's a whole history behind itself. But the 8mm Mauser has always been a 7.92 diameter bullet, with the exception of like extremely early 8mm Mauser rounds, which I think were a 3.18 diameter bullet as opposed to a 3.26. That might be the diameter. I'll have to look up the actual diameter of the 8mm Mauser, but I know it's a 7.92 millimeter. I just don't directly know the conversion between millimeter and inches. You'll have to forgive me on that one. But this right here is a Turkish Mauser in 8mm. This ammunition that I'm firing here is a 198 grain full metal jacket. This is actually, I think it's Modern Production. I can't remember the actual brand name. It's not Herders, but it starts with an H. I think it's Heritage Cartridge Company. It's a good ammunition, and this is ammunition that was given to me by a buddy of mine. I have not been able to find this brand besides what I was given. I like this rifle, and I like this ammunition, but if you're going to reload this ammunition, do not put an actual 8mm diameter projectile inside of this 7.92 diameter cartridge. And if you're firing an old 1988 commission rifle or 1888 commission rifle, just keep in mind that the bore diameter for that version of the 8mm is going to be different than the bore diameter for this 8mm. I cannot quite remember the actual conversion. Might be a 323. I can't remember, and I don't have my phone on me to actually look it up. But I do know that the older 8mm Mauser rifles were a slightly smaller diameter than what 8mm Mauser had gone to, and that's something that you got to pay attention to. So even though we have two different identical designated cartridges, they're both 8mm Mauser, one is just different than the other, and you've got to pay attention to the bore diameter of your particular rifle and pay attention as to if it is for one version of a cartridge or the other version of a cartridge that both have different diameter projectiles. There's just so much that goes into loading your own ammunition and so much that goes into firing these old surplus guns, because there's so many different options that were made out there for all sorts of stuff. What do I have here? Ooh, some 7.62 by 54 rimmed. I may as well put some rounds through my Mosin here. A little fun fact, whenever these 7.62 by 54 rimmed cartridges are fired out of a full-length Mosin, they actually achieve ballistics that are very similar to the 30-06. So although it is a shorter length cartridge, just with the way that the cartridge is designed, you actually get some pretty impressive performance out of this 7.62 by 54 rim. Now, it is a military cartridge. There are hunting versions of this out there, like soft points and whatnot, but for the most part, it's either going to be a 147 or a 174 grain projectile, depending on whether or not you're running a light ball ammunition or not. More often than not, looks like I hit the concrete there, more often than not, you're going to find these in full metal jackets because this is a military ammo. However, like I said, you can definitely get these with some soft points. I have a few more rounds here. I don't know why I loaded just two. And now one's on the ground. What I ought to do is I ought to take me a pair of calipers and measure out the bullet diameter of this tool ammo stuff. Because I noticed that the tool ammo, I have significantly less accuracy than any other kind of ammunition. Or just steel case ammunition in general. I have way less accuracy. And I'm not sure if that, I couldn't even hit my target at 40 yards. I'm not sure if that has to do with a different bullet diameter, or maybe different charges of powder. Or maybe the powder is degraded or like worn down from being moved around, and it just has different burn rates depending on the cartridges. I have no idea. I've never bothered looking into it. There we go. All right. Well, thanks for watching, folks. I do appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share, description below, link to all sorts of stuff. Go and go check that out. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm curious to see if I have any other reloaders out there. If you're reloading, just be careful, know your bullet diameter, and know the rifle that you're loading for. Like, don't load 8mm with, if you're running it through an old rifle, don't load it with the new kind of loading. Anyway, folks, I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see y'all on the next episode. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned.
Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.